You're fine. You're fine. Father, thank you so much for this day and for the gift of your word. We are so glad that we get to come together as brothers and sisters in Christ to learn more of who you are and what it means to serve you. Please be with those who are trying to still get here. And we thank you so very much for meeting us here. In your name, amen. So, we are starting at number 7 at the bottom of the page. And I need someone to read Acts 8, 5 to 8 is what we're going to start with. Neil, do you have it? Sure. Mm-hmm. Yes.
For example, people there about the sons. How is the New Testament what we had to say because of the miracles? Immediately spirits were cast out, screaming as they left the grave, and many men who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was great joy in the city.
Wow. Why were James and John not permitted to play the judgment card in response to the way the Samaritans dealt with Jesus and the 12?
Saying that God used what's going to go down there later and conversing with people.
Oh, thank you.
I thought that was interesting, too.
So,
I
yeah.
did that last week.
Yeah, oh, wow, that's me. Oh, wow, yeah. But yeah, so it seems that God was going to already use Philip. He had other plans.
Even for today.
Yes.
So, well, of course, they're not saved. But
No, but they're cousins. So this is, we sometimes get in the way of God's plans, don't we? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of this story when Jesus is being transfigured. He's up on the mountain. And Peter's like, okay, Lord, I'm going to build you a shelter, and Elijah, and who else was there? Moses. All three of them, this will be great. And Jesus is like, you don't even know what we're doing here. And that's we kind of think we know what God is doing in a situation and think we can just poke God a little bit sometimes. And that seems to be the case for James and John.
if Reuben had gotten back to Joseph in time, and gotten him out of the pit, and he hadn't gotten sold as slavers, what would have happened?
It's a big change in history, isn't it? Yeah. Even though every time I read that story,
I saved him. He was down in the pit. I saved him. That's good.
Yeah, for sure. And every time I read that story, I still want Reuben to go save him because I know how terrible that was, I mean, yes, but I know. Again, it's really interesting. Any other thoughts on that question? Yeah, number 8 on the flip side there. One of the reasons Jesus didn't allow James and his brother to call down fire was, there's a typo there, his reluctance to use the supernatural to establish his agenda. Susan, will you read Matthew 12:39 for us?
But Jesus replied, only an evil, adulterous generation would demand a miraculous sign, but the only sign I give them is the sign of the prophet Jonah.
Okay. So, supernatural is not necessarily all it's cracked up to be. Sometimes we want Vegas, and God wants to give us Capernaum. You know, because there's power in the simple as well, and pretty profound in working through everyday life. But even more significant was the approach Jesus took toward those who opposed him. What stands out in each of the following passages that gives insight into Jesus' purpose in his first coming? Jean, could you read Luke 19:10 for us? Gail, will you read Matthew 20:28? Ollie, will you read John 3:16 and 17? That's pretty familiar. Yeah. Susan, will you read Luke 9:55 to 56? We'll get started there. Yeah, ready whenever you are. Thanks.
Luke 19:10. For the Son of Man came to seek and to save the lost.
Very simple. So what stands out in this passage that gives insight into Jesus' purpose in his first coming? Yeah.
The Old Testament prophecy called condemnation.
Yeah. Yeah. Jesus brings conviction with it, for sure. But he is looking for those who don't know him, who don't follow God. And sometimes people who don't know the Lord, they get annoyed when they hear something about being saved. My mother, growing up, when I came to Christ and all of that, it kind of made her uncomfortable. Not because, she went to church her whole life. But she didn't like me talking about Jesus, and she didn't like me talking about getting saved, being saved. It made her uncomfortable. And I think for her, my best guess is that we were good Lutherans. We didn't talk about Jesus. We didn't talk about being saved, because that wasn't what the tradition did. And so, but there are people that are very uncomfortable with those using the things like saved. And so just an observation. Any thoughts?
She's not alone.
Right.
It's not as common today, but if you read in the past, different century or two ago or whatever, and some of the often people who were very devout
Mm-hmm.
Their testimony is that they were devout for years and they did everything. And then they came under conviction that they really didn't have Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
John Wesley being the prime example, of course, and others as well. So, he's certainly not an outlier, so to speak. And,
Yeah.
Some people have a different connotation of what being saved could possibly mean. You know, I was saved from drowning.
Mm-hmm.
So being, you know, some people just aren't comfortable with the terminology so much as necessarily what it actually means.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times it's the terminology itself
Mm-hmm.
that people are uncomfortable with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it could be nothing more than, that's just not what I grew up with,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's what I think. We associate being saved with Pentecostal,
Yes.
you know, and I grew up in a pretty quiet Presbyterian church.
Yes.
So we were
Yes.
we didn't go around proclaiming.
Right. Right. It is interesting. We have the Fire Dome people coming on Friday, and I was in a meeting with them and some other people that they work with and stuff in their ministry, and one of the guys said something like, "We're going to a Presbyterian church."
Ooh, I
Or
wonder what that meant to him.
prayer kind of thing. And I was like, I think they have an idea that this sort of the frozen chosen kind of idea. And they don't, it's just, you know, again, they don't associate this sort of demonstrative prayer or having a prayer service to begin with. And so I'm like, well, we love Jesus, so come on, you know. It's just interesting because we grow up with different traditions, yeah, and I can be a bit much for some people. I know that, but I think the important piece is that we're not judging one another on how we worship God, but that we worship God. Any more on that?
Like some people, again, people we're talking about, not totally unsaved, out of church people. In fact, reading Will Spurgeon's sermons, he talks about this to a certain extent. It's a free grace of God. What I really have to do is totally surrender and accept God's free gift of grace. Wait a minute. I gotta do something. I'm supposed to do something. I have to do.
Yes.
I've gotta do something. I've got, and that's where I think some of the people come in that are in church, go through the motions, and yet, you know, I've gotta do something. I can't just sit back and, okay, I'm totally surrendered and you do it all. So that plays into it too, I think.
It's uncomfortable.
Sometimes even subliminally, but still.
Yeah.
Well, I think with society today, we feel like if somebody does something to us, we've got to do a little something for them. It's payback.
You mean like something positive?
So,
Yeah.
If they
Right.
give you a gift,
Right.
you know, just
Reciprocate.
saying thank you should be enough and being appreciative of it. But
That's like if you take the casserole dish back, but you don't take it back empty, you put something.
yeah,
else
I
in.
we feel like
Right.
You can't give back empty.
So,
Yeah.
for Jesus just to forgive us, I mean, even though,
Yeah.
you know, believing and trusting in Him, it's doing something in return, but it, in society today, it's a concept that's
I owe you.
I owe you.
Yeah,
I don't want to be obligated to you.
you don't want to be
Oh,
obligated.
now
That's right.
different.
You don't want to be obligated. We watch this comedy regularly, and there's this, it's The Big Bang Theory.
Oh, I figured
Yeah,
that's what it was.
yeah. But there's this scene where, and it just perfectly displays this idea. The neighbor comes over and she says she's gotten them Christmas gifts. And the one guy, Sheldon, is like, no, don't give me a gift that I owe you. You know, it's that kind of thing. And I don't know what it is, so I don't know what value I need to go and reciprocate with, kind of thing. And he was freaking out about it. And so he had two of his friends come with him to this like Bath and Body store to pick out things for the neighbor. And he's just completely freaking out about it. And so he's got a plan. He buys just a whole bunch of stuff, and has it all back in his bedroom. And when she comes and gives the gift, he's going to open it and then excuse himself. Oh, I have a little tummy distress. I'll be right back. And then he'll go pick out the correct gift that goes with that gift that she gives. Well, the gift that she gives is a used napkin from, she's a waitress, from her restaurant, and it was autographed by Leonard Nimoy,
Oh, wow.
who he adores because he's a Trekkie.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, he reads it first, and he says, oh, you know, he's like this. And then he realizes that he wiped his mouth on it, and it makes it even more valuable because I could make my own Leonard Nimoy, you know? And he is just, I'll be right back. And he brings everything.
Oh, my.
And he goes, it's not enough, is it? It's just not enough. I don't know what to do. He's freaking out because that gift to him was so large, he couldn't give enough.
Right.
Yeah.
When you think about Jesus and what he gave us, we couldn't give enough. Not all the baskets in Sheldon's room, we could not give enough. And so what he ends up doing is hugging her, which he hates hugs. He doesn't like to touch people, and she loves hugs. And so she's like, oh, this means so much to her, etc. But you get the point. It's like we cannot give enough compared to what Jesus gave. So how could we even pretend to be able to do that? Just say thank you and give your life. Surrender your life. Isn't that just, it's such a beautiful picture for me. Every time I see that scene, I'm just like, oh, that is so like what Jesus did for us. He gave us so much more than we could even begin to fathom. And we could not pay him back. And it's just, to me, that's just amazing. So anyway, we got off on a little tangent there, but it illustrates the point. Who has Matthew 20:28?
I do.
Okay.
For even I, the Son of Man, came here not to be served, but to serve others, and to give my life as a ransom for all, for many.
Okay. Why did he come?
To serve us.
Mm-hmm. Which is really hard to accept, isn't it? That the King would want to serve us. Any thoughts?
When you think of Peter at the Last Supper, and Jesus is being humble, obviously, and teaching humility, but in a sense, it's humbling for us to be served by someone who we think of superior.
Yes.
That is somewhat humbling in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds convoluted, but I think that's true.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
I've got a little story as Christians, we should serve others.
Mhm.
You know, use that as an example of what we as Christians should do in our lives.
Because we've seen it done
Right.
by the one that shouldn't serve anyone. That's something. John 3:16 and 17.
It's an easy one. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send the Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through him.
Yes, so we've been given the Son of God as our sacrifice for our sin.
Now, judgment comes. Like anything, you have to put it in context, because verse
Right.
19 to verse 36 point out that he came to give freely the gift of eternal life, and not to condemn it, but those who reject it. Says in 19, love of darkness rather than the light, their deeds were evil, and that's the judgment. And of course, at the very end, it says, those who don't obey the Son will, wrath of God abides on them. So it's a beautiful thought.
Consequence.
Yeah. And it's true, but again, put in the context of flip side to it.
What were you gonna say, Jean?
Consequence.
Oh, well,
Yeah, you beat me to it.
good minds, strong minds. Yeah, it's, I think that's good to remember. People have a wrong idea of love. All of us do to some degree, I think. We don't quite really understand God's love. But especially those who don't know Jesus. They kind of think, well, it's loving if you let me do whatever I want. You know? And that's not what a good parent does. Right?
I wouldn't let my kids play in the street.
Nope.
You know?
Nope.
Well, it goes back to that saying, people say, if he's such a loving God, then why does he condemn us to hell? And he doesn't. We choose to go there. And he lets us because we chose it. We have free will.
Yeah.
It's not like, he's not a dictator to us.
Yeah.
So, that for a long time when somebody would say, how could a loving God let somebody go to hell? It confused me until finally one day it clicked on me. Hey, he doesn't send us there. We send ourselves. And, if we're not willing to accept him, then we have to accept the alternative.
Aren't you glad he makes it clear? That's what a good parent does too, right? Here are your consequences. That's it. Yeah. Do you have Luke 9, 55 and 56?
But Jesus turned and rebuked them, so they went on to another village. Is that it?
55 and 56.
That's
55.
55. 55, but Jesus turned and rebuked them, so they went on to another village. That is 56. It's 55
Yeah,
and
it is.
56.
It's 55 and 56.
It's 55 and 56.
Oh,
Okay, well, that's interesting.
But above that, James and John wanted to throw down the fire.
That's when they were wanting to throw in the fire.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, and he turned and rebuked them, so they went on to another village.
Gotcha.
So they wanted to bring destruction, and he didn't. That was not his way.
Right. Yeah.
think that's why he makes us, if we do something we know we shouldn't have done, we feel guilty.
Yeah,
You know,
it's conviction,
Even
right?
that
Mhm.
consciousness, that conscience in us that say, no, you shouldn't have done that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And John 12:46 and 47, I'll go ahead and read. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many blows. Well, that's an interesting one. What is being said there?
If we're the servant and we're not ready, we're not gonna be happy with the consequences, that it's what we choose to do because we didn't follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We see a theme of choice here, don't we? We can choose. So it's pretty.
That thought, really in the Old Testament, we talked about in our Sunday school class, what we're studying now, the prophets,
Mm-hmm.
both the Old Testament and New. There are two classes of people saved, going to heaven, those aren't, obviously. But as far as condemnation, either we save people being chastised by Christ, what we do, not going to hell, but chastised or whatever, now or whatever. And the Jews in the Old Testament, the theme is constant that if you know what is the proper thing to do, if you know what you're supposed to do and you don't do it, or you rebel against it, it's worse than if you don't.
Right.
I think that's Wade, he's not a great theologian, but he always says when somebody's doing, see people doing bad things that were pagans, or what do you expect? Pagans act like pagans. They
Yep.
don't know better. They'll be condemned for it, but not the same way that we would if we did the same thing.
Yeah, I think that because this verse 46, the master of that servant came on a day, so the servant knows, and he will cut him to pieces and assign him a place with the unbelievers. So there's a deeper consequence for those who know better and still do the wrong thing, or don't do the right thing.
I can hear a parent in my head. I told you not to do that, and you went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
So now here's the consequence.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a really natural consequence, isn't it?
I think the big difference there is we all have a sinful nature. So people who don't have the insight of what the scripture says, they got a conscience, but not the true insight, and do something, they're just doing, well, I said, being a pagan, doing what they're supposed to. If one who knows is doing it, then you're actually rebelling against God. You're in rebellion against God, not just following the natural world. And that's different.
It is. Yeah. All righty. Pages 84 and 85. Let's see here. Jean, could you read the first paragraph starting with inquiring of soothsayers? Just read that paragraph, and then Gail, would you read the second paragraph after that, going on to page 85?
Okay.
Then we finish up with Ahaziah sought knowledge of the future.
Yeah.
that make sense?
Okay. All right. Inquiring of soothsayers was strictly forbidden by Moses' law, of course, and that's Deuteronomy 18:10-12. Seeking prophecies from fortune tellers that were associated with Baal-zebub, Zebub was even worse. Baal-zebub was a Philistine deity. His name meant Lord of the Flies. The land of the Philistines was thick with flies, and the Philistines believed the Lord of the Flies lived in their world, so they made this fly god one of their main deities. They had some famous oracles who claimed to be able to tell the future. They usually gave flattering prophecies with predictions so ambiguous they could hardly miss. But those oracles nonetheless have gained fame throughout Israel. They were the psychic friends network of Elijah's time.
Beelzebub was the Baal, and Vic was as vile and deity as anyone ever invented. He supposedly ruled the flies, who are born insects that swarm around every kind of decay and filth and spread disease and spawn magnets. It was a fitting image for this kind of God. Who would ever think of worshiping a deity whose realm was everything foul and unclean? Such a God was so revolting to the Jews that they altered the name Beelzebub into Beelzebub, which means God of dung. This vile being epitomized everything impure and unholy, everything that opposed the true God. This is why the name Jesus, the name Beelzebub, had become a way to refer to Satan in Luke 11:15. This was the God from whom God sought knowledge of the future.
Okay. That's interesting, isn't it? Just learning about the meaning of that word and just how that came about. Any thoughts that come to mind upon reading that or hearing that?
I guess if you know the background of where the name comes from and stuff, and like it said, that's who, at the time of Jesus, that name became a way of referring to Satan, that they thought of Satan as being vile and disgusting.
The king of the dung flies.
Yeah, king of all the bad stuff.
Yeah. All righty.
But that last sentence, this was the God who, out of whatever, sought knowledge of the future. You know, the bad, the hateful, the nasty. You know, and
Why would you choose?
I guess he was bad at that.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
He wasn't looking for good. He was looking for his own self. And
Pagans behave like pagans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. All righty. Susan, will you read Luke 9:54, please?
When James and John saw this, they said to Jesus, Lord, should we call down fire from heaven to burn them up?
James obviously was familiar with the Old Testament account of Elijah calling down fire on the emissaries of Ahaziah. He knew the scriptures, but the manner in which he let the Lord know what was on his and his brother's mind was not scripturally sound. What was only too apparent in this verse?
One thing, their impetuous nature.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Mm-hmm.
they called sons of thunder?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Makes sense. What else do we see there?
But they asked permission to do it.
Yeah, at
You
least
know,
they asked
Lord,
permission.
can we do this? Let
Yes.
us do this. Let us calm
Yeah.
down the fire.
Let us, yeah. So it was it more permission or was it telling Jesus what to do?
Ooh, fine
Well,
line.
I guess that's what it could have been, say, this is what we need to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas Elijah did it, he just said, the God of,
yeah.
God did it. I guess
Yeah.
I read on in there,
Mhm.
God is the one who brought the thunder, the fire down,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
not him.
Right. It wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Because certainly they saw Jesus do a lot of miraculous things, so they figured as his followers, why couldn't I?
yeah.
You know.
They were also taking the judgment side of things away from God.
Mhm.
God's the one that judges, not man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't their place to pass judgment on these people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. How many times do we like to judge what God needs to be judging?
Do you think they were asking Jesus to call down the fire
I think so.
rather than saying, we can do it?
I don't know.
I think us means,
You know,
I guess I read it as us, them.
that, I don't think it means the two of them, I think it means
Yeah.
Jesus is.
and the group,
The group.
Is head of the
Mhm.
yeah.
cycle.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. James was the first disciple to lose his life, other than Judas. As has been expressed previously, Herod's decision to go after James no doubt had to do with James' personality. But what do you gather from the fact that James did not run away from the contract put out on his life?
One thing is following the footsteps of Jesus. Well, scripture say Jesus would call down 10,000 angels and wiped out his enemies and been done with it.
Mhm.
And he willingly went to the cross.
Yeah.
He knew where he's going. And the same has been true with martyrs throughout the ages to a large extent. So.
Yeah.
I want to be one. I might run, but
Yeah, I'm not getting in that line to become one. But yes. Yeah. He was definitely devoted to the Lord and given his life in every way to the Lord.
I got to thinking it's interesting. We talk about the 12 apostles and the gospel being spread by the 12 that Jesus left. And I was thinking, I was reading that, well, of course, Judas is gone. And I couldn't find anything that suggests that Matthias ever did anything significant
Mm-hmm.
charge as far as carrying on the church's work. He may have stayed around Jerusalem and the lady 70 and fled to, I don't know, worshiping with them. I don't know, but so really, it's 10, not 12 that carried the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Really, that's
Yeah.
what I picked up on. Not that that's a big thing, but still, we think about the 12. There's only 12 that Jesus.
It took it.
He didn't have a plan B, and he had 12, but he really only had 10.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. God has confidence in himself.
One plus God's majority.
Exactly. So yeah, he could entrust this message to 10 people. He's the ringer. I mean, when you think about it, he's the one that has the power behind all of it anyway. So that should give us confidence to step out and just follow what the Lord tells us to do in regard to spreading his word. It's not easy though. Still. I guess we'll go to 11. Knowing James had grown up in a well-to-do home, perhaps with feelings of entitlement, makes it easier to understand why he was one of those involved in debates over who deserved to be considered the greatest of the disciples. How has your family of origin influenced the kinds of things you expect of God? It's an interesting question.
Yes. If you think about your family and the influence they have on your lives, what you're raised up,
Mm-hmm.
thinking and doing and hearing and knowing the background of your family, a little bit of the history
Mm-hmm.
and what they went through. I mean, my grandparents were just farmers, both sets of great grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't have much, but they had enough
Mm-hmm.
to live off of. I mean, Daddy was one of 7 children, and they farmed and raised their own food and were self-sufficient that way. And so I guess you learn thinking back, what they did, and you can see that the influence that they really have on the way that you live.
Mm-hmm. What did their life communicate to you about God?
That he provided,
Mm-hmm.
and he will provide for me.
Mm-hmm. And it isn't just food and clothing, it's provision of all kinds of
Right.
things, right? Things that you need, emotional provision, provision for a car or whatever, but it's not just physical things as well, right? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's just so amazing.
And his mother had a brother that was starting a fire early in the morning, and he threw some gas on it, and he caught fire. And somebody in the community, something knew they took him to Chattanooga to the hospital up there. I mean, my grandparents didn't have money, to run together, but somebody provided the information and the way and whatever to care for.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's, God is going to care for you and take care of you in all your needs
Mm-hmm.
if you just trust Him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it isn't going to always look like what you think it should look like.
Yeah.
His provision.
Yeah, this brother died, and it was and it was all sad, but God provided at least some measure of comfort to them, knowing that he went to somewhere that they could really take care of him and how bad he was injured.
Yeah.
So his last days were not in so much suffering.
Yeah. I certainly understood that when I was working with folks that were in the nursing home, and how their kids wanted certain things to happen. And for some of them, it took a long time for them to cross over to be with the Lord. And we don't know what God is doing in those moments. We just don't know. And his provision is there too. You know, I really believe that, because some of the people that I sat with as they're dying, it's really interesting. That holy space, you know, sacred space. God is always providing. We just don't always see it. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
Well, if you come from a family like mine that does not show unconditional love, it was really hard to accept that Jesus loves me unconditionally because nobody else ever did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
you know, with the exception of my pony, of course, but, you know.
Yeah, your pony.
My pony loved me unconditionally, but it's because I fed her and took care of her, but,
Yeah.
but, you know.
But God provided in that as well. You know, that little
But that's the
moment.
only, you know, sometimes that pony was like the only comfort that I really felt like I had.
Mm-hmm.
And now I had my grandparents, but you know, that I could go to. But when you're young, you don't think that they're going to understand what you're trying to tell them sometimes, and so you kind of keep it to yourself what you're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And as I got older, my grandparents, they didn't show, their love was still conditional,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't as conditional as my parents was.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, it was difficult.
Yeah. Do you feel like the Lord has rebuilt that trust in you with Him?
Well, yes. Both of my, I won't say both of my mother and my stepfather are both gone. My dad's still alive, but there are a lot of things I wish I could sit my mother down and talk to her about.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you do this and why did you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never have that chance really, because when I get to heaven, I probably won't carry him on. So.
Yeah, you probably won't. But I think in those kinds of situations, at least that's my prayer, and it's been my experience, that God fills in the gaps along the way where you least expect it. And that's a type of provision as well. And so I pray that for you, because I certainly did not grow up in a home that showed love, or it was very conditional, for sure. And so what I learned about God is that you go to church, you do the right things, you be a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're a good person, then you will go to heaven. And so that's what I learned, but I've relearned since then. God has given me people that have been formative in teaching me what God's love looks like. And that we can expect God to love us. Now, it still isn't easy, but it's better. So, the other thing He did for me was give me children. And I had to learn how to love them the way Jesus loves them, and still didn't do as good a job as I wanted to, but it definitely helped. It was on the job training. in God's love. So,
And I think too that my parents were not very demonstrative at all. I mean, we didn't hug, we didn't say, I love you, you know,
Mhm.
that kind of thing. That was just, I think, part of the age.
sure,
And, you know, my mother was Scottish and my dad came from a strict German father.
That
So,
says a lot.
you know, so they,
Mhm.
what do the British say? Keep quiet and carry on or something.
Mhm. Yeah, yep.
My dad comes from a very strong English background.
There you go.
And he had this, of course, I don't have a whole lot of experiences with my dad from a child because my parents divorced when I was 10 and he kind of left our lives for the most part. But I do remember when we were little, it was like children are to be seen and not heard,
Oh, yeah.
you know, and that was one of his big things. And so that was something that was hard, you know. Well, I remember very distinctly, we went to, it was either a lawyer's office or an insurance office, I can't even remember, and it was the three of us. My little sister was little, I mean, she was 2 or 3, and my parents had to go in and talk to the person and leave us out into the lobby, and we were told, you sit there with your hands folded in your lap.
Be quiet.
Be quiet, you know. That went over like a lead balloon, but
Mhm.
you know,
For a 2-year-old.
it's just kind of what was expected of us. You know, it's not what children do. So it was kind of odd.
Yeah.
No, I think that was pretty prevalent too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's, we have to learn from this and from being around God's people what to expect of God. Because it is so different than what the world gives us all the way around. So,
I mean, even now when I talk to my dad, just, it's the thing with me. I always tell him that I love him before I hang up the phone. And the response I get is like I slapped him or something. Because it's like, I love you
We
too.
don't do that.
No,
we don't do
he
that.
stops and,
You know,
I love you too, kind of a response, you know.
It just wasn't done.
And he just,
yeah.
I don't know if the first time I remember him ever telling me that he loved me, I was in my 40s, you know.
Yeah.
And it was a response to me telling him first.
Sure. Yeah. Well, we overdid it with our kids. So, my dad was German, my mom was German and English, all that. And Pete's parents are like kind of the same. And I told my mother-in-law I loved her, and she, okay, well, I gotta go, you know, it's, yeah.
Just shocked her, didn't it?
It did, she didn't know what to do with it, so, and she doesn't do well with hugs either, but.
Yeah, my older son now is like that. He's never been a hugger. Finally gotten to the point where when we call, you know, I always say, I love you. Last thing I say, yeah, I love you too, bye.
Yeah, gotta go. Yeah. Yeah. So,
At least he says that. He didn't used to say that. You know, that's improved.
our kids are trained that that's how you say goodbye. I love you. So, that's just what they do.
Now Jeff is a totally different personality. He's golden retriever. You know, I guess
Love it.
Chuck would be I don't know, German Shepherd.
Siamese cat.
No, he's not that graceful.
Yeah.
You know, he's 6'4" and
Gotcha.
long arms and legs.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And you know, first child.
Yeah.
Ego.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway.
Bossy.
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Our first child is like that too. Yeah. I'll tell a story about her this Sunday. Please come to church and you'll find out. Okay.
Now, let's see, is that Morgan then?
Morgan, yeah, she's the oldest, yeah. I guess we're gonna stop right there and we'll do those last two questions next week and have a little party. Bring some food, how about that?
Oh, okay.
Like we did last year, and then, what we'll plan, you can go ahead and shut off. What